Hello and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, people. Make sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. We're trying to hit 1K as soon as possible, people. We're going to hit it this year. It's just a matter of when, not if. But we want to hit it as quick as possible. So if you're not subscribed watching this, why not subscribe? We post every day, people, whether it's streams or uploads. But yeah, it's a bit of a different video because nothing's going on at West Ham. Nothing is going on. People can talk about the Duran bid, but let's be real here. Let's be real. That was a phantom bid. I don't even like using that phrase, but that was a typical David Sullivan move right there. And we talked about it briefly on Monday. But that kind of sums up West Ham in January. They're doing fuck all again. But let me look at the bigger picture for just a second. Yes, West Ham are doing fuck all in January. But what does this mean for West Ham in the long term? The long term looks even worse, in my opinion, but not because I think West Ham are going to get relegated or anything, or they're going to be a bottom three side and we're going to completely capitulate and become like another Leeds or whatever, like where we don't come back for another like 20 years or whatever. I'm not going that far. But in terms of the ambition and where I hold this club, I feel like West Ham are being left behind. And the reason why I say that is because obviously, let's go back to the David Moyes era, the back end of David Moyes' reign. I'm holding this club to a standard, and I still am. I'm still holding them to the exact same standard. Where ninth place for West Ham United is fine, but not with that squad. Not with a squad that you designed, and it looks like that very topsy turvy. Where people can say what they want about the attackers now, but that squad should be bigger than ninth. The reason why that squad was ninth in the first place was because I had a great start to the season, but we never followed it through. And also, everyone around us was just as inconsistent. The Chelseas, the Brightons, the Newcastles, and Man Uniteds. All the teams that were battling around us were just as inconsistent. So that's why we finished ninth. But anyone that actually watched the performances knew that we was always going to be in this place regardless. Now, the problem is, people don't like to see that. Neutrals and Moyes inners don't ignore the 2024 form. They ignore that. They ignore what happened from the back end of the season last season, where we won like 4 games. I got battered for most part, just because we won. It's fine to finish ninth if you get battered. Why am I bringing this up again? Because this leads into the bigger picture. So the problem wasn't the sacking of David Moyes or the letting go of David Moyes, even though we didn't even sack him, by the way. It was the appointment, because everyone was hyping up West Ham to be 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. Some people said top 4. I knew as soon as people started predicting us to finish top 4, something was wrong. Something's gonna go completely wrong, because when does this ever happen? When does West Ham ever finish in top 4? And people are expecting too much of us, like instantly. I thought people were meant to be football fans, where they look at it for what it is and be like, okay, they've signed a lot of players, they've signed a lot of good players. However, when does this happen in football, where instantly everyone comes into their own and everyone starts gelling? Let's say we had Graham Potter from the start. Don't get me wrong, I think we would have been in a higher position. I think we would be where like Brentford, not even like maybe where Brighton are right now, maybe. But what I expected to happen was it takes time to gel. So we'd finish like 10th. We'd finish like 10th or something. Just because a lot of the signings that we signed aren't Premier League players. Like I think Kilman and Wan-Bissaka are. Somerville has barely played in the Premier League. Like for Leeds, he barely played in the Premier League. That was only in the back end where he started to break through before they got relegated. Same with, people like Rodriguez never played. Fulkirk never played in the Premier League. Like Guilherme never played in the Premier League. Who else did we even sign? Tadibo never played in the Premier League. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good window. I still maintain it was a good window. Same way I still maintain that Paquetá Skamaka window was still a good window for what we were trying to do. It just, for the wrong manager, as we always do it. We always put the right pieces in place for the wrong person to take it forward. That's what happens every time at West Ham United. We've gone through this many times before. But the point is, I still hold the club to a standard where I will give you a chance in this first season to give me 10th to the start of play. And obviously, we know that the previous manager couldn't give us either of that. We know that the previous manager, we didn't know what he was trying to do. And I called it from game week 5, and we had to wait until the start of January for him to leave. And I was going to judge you on next season for Europe. The problem is, in that time of us trying to be patient and us making the wrong decisions, and when I mean us, I mean David Sullivan, this club in general making the wrong decisions, other clubs have overtaken us. I know it's taken me 5 minutes to get into that, but I had to explain the backstory. I was actually afraid of the likes of Crystal Palace at the start of the season. I was also wrong about them. Despite the fact that they beat us, they're not going to finish ninth. I predicted them to finish ninth. My Premier League predictions in hindsight look fucking horrible. But I don't know about Brentford, just because sometimes they don't invest enough. And they've had an injury crisis for a very long time, and they still haven't really done much to address it. I know they signed a Coyote guy, but they need more than just that. Even though they definitely need defenders. They definitely need centre-backs. I'll tell you that for sure. But the likes of Bournemouth, who I put the clip about yesterday, go and check that out. Brighton have been run well for a very long time, and they've only just started to spend money because they can pretty much spend what they want with the amount of sales they've recouped over the past few years, and they get their players in 2 years early at times. They think about who their next manager is going to be when the new manager goes in. So they've already got their Hertzler replacement lined up if Hertzler does exceed expectations. I think Hertzler is a good manager. I don't know whether he's going to get a bigger job than Brighton. I actually think he'll be at Brighton for a long time. He's still young as well, so I think he'll be at Brighton for time, which is why I think they signed him, because they know because he's a young manager, he'll probably stick with them for a few years rather than De Zerbi and Potter. That Potter was there for a few years, but De Zerbi was there for one and a half. Like, it is what it is. With Brighton as well, you got Brighton, you got Bournemouth, you got Fulham. Fulham used to be that team that were kind of a yo-yo team, a little bit in that 2018-2020 period. But then they fixed up. They stopped calling out their owners stopped calling out their players online. I don't know whether they got new owners since then or what changed, but Marco Silva, I'm pretty sure he broke a record in the championship, took them up, and has kept them up. They struggled a little bit last season. They fell off a little bit last season, but it happens. Nobody expected Fulham to do fuck all. This is their third season back. This is their third season back in the Premier League, and you'll see them in the top half of the table. They've got Emil Smith-Rowe. Iwobi's playing magnificently. Calvin Bassey and Joaquin Anderson's a very good partnership. Kenny Tete plays well. Anthony Robinson, again, amazing. And this is basically, they've recruited smartly. But notice what I've said about these clubs. They're all on the same page. But also with these clubs, they've all overtaken West Ham. Not just in their table, but in their projects. Like, for example, everyone is on the same page. Like, I knew when West Ham got Tim Steiner in that Moyes was going to be let go at the end of his contract. Like, he was pretty much gone at the end of the season. I didn't think they were going to sack him. They were going to let him go on a free. I should have read the signs from then that David Sullivan was still being David Sullivan, despite, stepping away from the transfers, which he did do, to be fair. But the problem is you still hire the managers, mate. So it kind of is just counterproductive in itself. And listen, the guy that identified Jabi Alonso to manage Bayer Leverkusen is definitely good enough for West Ham United. I don't really get the start. I get criticising Steiner for certain signings, but I don't really get it in general. He's really not a problem at this club. He's not. But unfortunately, he's probably lost his power in the transfers again, meaning he's probably going to leave, which I know some people wanted anyway because they wanted to keep fucking David Moyes. It's kind of embarrassing, not going to lie. But as we digress, a good example to use again is Bournemouth, where new ownership, they hired Gary O'Neill permanently. Then they were like, hold on, Iraola's available. We want to go down a different route. Let's hire Iraola. And they gave him all these players, where you can clearly see that the director of football, whoever it is at Bournemouth, I don't know what their name is on the same page as Iraola. They're identifying the same issues. And the problem is now, as much as I think Graham Potter's a good appointment, one, it's a free agent appointment, meaning we know Sullivan's behind it. Two, it's an appointment we should have made in the summer. If you was going to hire someone on a free, Graham Potter was there anyway. Well, nothing's changed. I don't think I know like he wanted to take a long break, but I don't think that extra last 8 months would have made a difference because he was rejecting jobs. So it's clearly listening to offers. The Leicester job, returning to Brighton, Ajax, etc. So maybe he would have come back. He would have come to us instead. Maybe that could have happened. We didn't even approach him. First started approaching him around the Leicester game because that's how when the picture got leaked. Let's be real. But also, we didn't agree terms, so we had to keep Lopetegui for another 2 months. I can't remember if the Leicester game was December or November. I'm not too sure. I don't really care. But we had to keep Lopetegui in for another month. And the problem is, all these clubs now are overtaking us. Brighton are spending money. They're probably going to have to. They don't have to, but Baliba and João Pedro are going to have a lot of interest in the summer, meaning they have more money to spend, and they'll just spend even more money. They might not even spend in January because they're probably like, we're not competing for anything. We'll wait till the summer. They could get Europe. I don't know. But also, Newcastle haven't spent any money under Eddie Howe recently. Like they got that goalkeeper from Nottingham Forest, which was for PSR to sell Elliot Anderson. And they got Asula and Lloyd Kelly. Asula doesn't play. Lloyd Kelly's a free signing. That's a squad player. Just to fill in the gaps for centre back. So they can have 4 centre backs. And cover at left back, I guess, as well. Once they start spending money, it's curtains. It's curtains. Not for the league, but for us. But for us to catch up. When I don't like the narrative that Sky Sports try to peddle out of West Ham can't compete with the Big Six and Aston Villa and Newcastle. Newcastle haven't spent. Newcastle had 1 season in the Champions League, and Newcastle have only had 1 season in Europe since the Saudi takeover. We'd have 3. I know a lot of that was, to be fair, a lot of that was before the Saudi takeover, but it's not like they spent any money, and it's not like Newcastle got this mad squad where it's hard to compete with. And Aston Villa are doing a fantastic job under Unai Emery. This is their 2nd season in a row in Europe. They'll probably get a 3rd. However, let's not act like they're impossible to compete with. I'm pretty sure we spent more than them. The problem is we just didn't have the right manager in hand. I said this in the summer. We need the manager as good as Unai Emery and a striker as good as an Isak to take us to Europe. We've got Potter. We'll see where he can take us, but he's got a big job in his hands because West Ham are doing fuck all in January, and they've kind of exposed themselves with that Duran bid, because that Duran bid was fucking stupid. Like they want 70, 80 million now. You should, if you really wanted Duran, you should have bidded that money in the summer. And I get it, stocks rise. So I get you probably didn't know that Duran was going to be this good, even though you wanted him. And he's just been a second striker. I get that. But we can read through your games already. So I don't want to hear no bollocks about FFP. I will be currently this January window has been a 0 out of 10. The only reason why I haven't made a single transfer video, apart from I guess the Dewsbury Hall, Chukwuemeka, Hwang Yi-chan links when Lopetegui actually was about to get sacked, is because nothing's fucking happened. Like what? Like there was rumors of Freddie Potts being recalled. I would have loved that to happen, but we've gone past the deadline. Might as well make do with Lewis Orford, who's probably going to be the squad against Villa. And I'm scared of that Villa game. I'm scared that we're going to get absolutely piped and ragdolled, to be completely honest with you. But we will see. But this again, guys, this is a problem. We are being left behind in the Premier League. So even let's say we get our act together. Let's say we have another good transfer window and we finally have a good manager now that could coach us way through that. We've got to catch up with Bournemouth, who are now used to each other. Everyone's used to each other. They're recruiting really well. They've got a system in place where everyone believes in the system, and they'll probably finish above us for the next couple of seasons. I can't see them falling off anytime soon. Even if like someone was to pip Iraola, they probably have someone in place to replace him. They're probably thinking about that. They probably have that in mind. I don't think the Bournemouth owners are stupid. They're like Bill Foley has done a fantastic job since he's taken over. We know what Brighton are like. We're probably not going to finish above Brighton anytime soon. We're not going to finish above Villa. We're not going to finish above Newcastle. We're not even going to finish above Brentford and Fulham. If we're not careful, if Brentford start spending money as well, we're going to finish below them. They've still got Thomas Frank. Marco Silva doing a great job at Fulham. He's used to everyone I just named are all used to each other for a very long time, all on the same page, all got the same amount of chemistry on the pitch and off the pitch, and all going in one direction. With David Sullivan in charge, there is no point. There is no point of having any hope. We got to just as I said, there's no hope, but we got to hope that Potter does something and exceeds expectations with the lack of anything that he's been given. I get we've got one of the recruitment guys that he worked with, one of the guys from Chelsea. I'm assuming he worked with him at Brighton as well. I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. Let's does he even have any power? We will see. We will see. If he does have power, then that's a good thing because he knows Graham Potter. He knows his system. He knows what he likes. But because I've only seen us linked with players from the Premier League, you kind of already know that this is David Sullivan taking over the transfer window. But here we are. If not, then cool. But what was the point of hiring a director of football if you're not going to give him the right manager? Like, the problem is David Sullivan is genuinely fucking stupid. Like, genuinely stupid. Because the problem is he generally thinks that it's Steinen's fault. Hello? It's your fault. It's been your fault forever. But because you stepped away from the transfers and David Moyes wanted to take over the transfers and David Moyes was doing a good job at the time, we didn't talk about you. If you don't want us to talk about you, get your fucking act together because you're not going to leave anytime soon. We know you're not going to leave. We know you're not leaving. But there's always going to be rumors of someone taking over West Ham just because we don't like our owners, and then people fall for the same links all the time. Same way with Tottenham. Like there's always a rumor about someone taking over Tottenham. Like I saw Israeli links like a couple of years ago. Some Israeli guy taking over Tottenham. That hasn't happened. I don't think. That hasn't happened. I don't think they've got any shareholders. And to be completely honest with you, I've said this before. Like, I'm going to use Chelsea as an example here with Roman Abramovich. I know Roman had his faults as well, just as a footballing owner, but Roman cared about football. So he waited until he can sell to the right owner. And for like Todd Bowley, and I know it was meant to be these other people that were actually like fucking like racist or whatever it was, and there was protests for that. So fair enough. But they waited until they sold it to a Todd Bowley, and Chelsea might be building something now under Maresca, because we want our owner to leave. But do you trust David Sullivan to pick the next owner? I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon. I think we're in an ongoing cycle. I think we're finished. I think we're fucked. I'm always going to hold the club to a standard where I need Europe and I need you to challenge for cups. I'm always going to hold you to that standard because we're in the London Stadium, not Upton Park. So I'm always going to hold you to that standard. And I won't stop holding you to that standard, but that's kind of the problem now. We're finished. We're being left behind in the Premier League, and that's why. But listen, I know like people don't want me to be negative or whatever, but I'm only going to tell you the truth and nothing but the truth. That's it. That is it. But listen, make sure to leave a like on the video, people. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Social medias are in the description if you want to follow me. And the email for the inquiries. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.